Center. In the co-main event, also in the lightweight division, Jalin Turner finishes Bobby Green in the first round. The official time 2:49. Mark, what in the hell did we watch in this finish, man? Reffing is a hard job, but my goodness, man, did Kerry Hatley? He did a bang-up job. What are your thoughts?
Sorry, I got to pull myself back into MMA because I just got all these updates that the Yankees traded for Juan Soto, so I'm fucking pumped.
Nice.
Okay, refocus. Yeah, it wasn't good.
It wasn't good.
Obviously, there are two things to discuss when it comes to this fight, which is the fight and the stoppage.
Yep.
I will try to start with the fight. It's funny because if you were rooting for Bobby Green, the thing you feared the most was how that reach of Jalin Turner would combine with the hands-down approach of Bobby Green and create a scenario where he gets, clipped at range and gets hurt. But truly, that's not even what caused any of the problems. The shot that hurt Bobby was a counter right as he stepped in, and it landed perfectly on the temple. It staggered him, and he couldn't get his feet back under him. And then he was a sitting duck for the right hand that followed that, which landed super flush and dropped Bobby really bad. And now we get to it. I've seen a lot of bad stoppages in my life. Maybe there's some I'm forgetting. But right now, I'm going to tell you this was the worst late stoppage that I have ever seen. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I was so uncomfortable. It felt disgusting watching it. I went back and counted. Bobby Green ate 15 unanswered shots on the ground. And I'm not saying Jalin Turner threw 15 because there were some that didn't land. He threw 20-something. Bobby Green ate 15 unanswered shots on the ground. After already hitting the ground, borderline knocked out. He fell like a ton of bricks. That's inexplicable. It could have reasonably been stopped the second Bobby Green hit the mat, and no one would have had a problem with it. That's how bad he fell initially. You want to stay there, let him be a warrior, then you stop it sometime in the next 5 shots that land on the ground. Then come another 5 where Bobby Green lays flat on his stomach and is covering his head, not moving. But no, that stretch of 5 is also not good enough. Kerry Hatley lets it continue more. He allows another 5 until he sees Bobby Green go 100% out cold and then still lets 2 more shots land after that. So I see stoppages like that, and I cannot think any other thought besides that the ref had something against the fighter and wanted to see him get hurt, because it's the only thing I can think of that can possibly explain how that went on as long as it did. There is nothing else that makes logical sense to me. And I'm not saying that's what I think. Like, I don't want to accuse Kerry Hatley of having it out for Bobby Green or something. The point I'm trying to make is just that my brain cannot find any other logical explanation for how you can allow that fight to go on as long as it did. I don't think I've ever been screaming at my TV for a longer period of time that a fight needed to be stopped. So I don't understand it. It was awful. It was disgusting. It was hard to watch. Bobby Green deserved far better than that. And Kerry Hatley should not work for a while, to put it lightly. I can't imagine you felt much different than me.
Yeah, no. I mean, I understand that reffing is a very hard job, and these refs kind of sometimes get killed either way. Whether it's early or whether it's late, sometimes it's a punch too early or a punch too late, and they get killed by us, and they get killed by media people and the fans. But this was not a punch too late. This was, to your point, thank you for tallying them up. It was the word is egregious. It was pretty egregious. Like you said, the way Bobby Green fell, and then the way that he was just flat on his stomach, his head in his face buried in his hands. I mean, to me, that is the definition of not defending yourself intelligently.
Correct.
Stop the fight. The fight's over.
Frankly, it is the sign for this fighter is asking me to stop the fight.
It was reminiscent of like early UFC knockouts. It was reminiscent if this was like UFC 5.
Yep.
where they literally would just go until somebody is out cold, and that's not the sport we watch now. So really a head scratcher. It made me think, like, why don't we interview refs? Why don't we interview refs sometimes? Like, what were
Yeah.
you seeing? What were you watching? Although then again, what would the poor guy have said? I don't know. What the hell was he watching though? That was a tough one. That
Yeah.
was that was bad.
I mean, I heard Dana say that apparently he felt terrible about it when he rewatched it, but like, you're in the kit. Like, what did he think he was seeing in there? There was no sign of any escape, of any recovery.
So
I
bad.
just, I don't get what, sometimes you could be like, oh, he did this, he moved this way. So you could see why the ref like stepped back for a second. There was nothing, zero.
He was just getting pounded on, man. Until he went dark.
Yeah.
So, and I know that there are many fighters who say, I want my referee to be like that because I would rather get knocked out than get an early stoppage, than be stopped early.
Yeah.
These guys are all warriors, and they want to go out on their shield. And Bobby Green himself didn't seem to have too much of a problem with it afterwards.
I'm not sure he had a clue what happened.
This is true. This is true. That being said, unfortunately, the egregiousness of the lateness of the stoppage took a little shine off of this great win by Jalin Turner. That being said, I'm excited again to see how far up he has jumped up the PRIA rankings later on. But he's definitely he's climbing up the rankings, Mark. So put on your matchmaker hat and give me his next opponent.
Yeah, this was big for him. He came in. It's a fight that people knew he didn't necessarily want to take on the short notice. He got convinced to take it. He struggled with the weight. He had to weigh in twice. He made it. He's fighting Bobby Green, who has all this momentum, and he friggin' shined. He put him out in whatever it was, a few minutes. So yeah, that's a big statement for Jalin Turner, especially rebounding from that loss that he took to Dan Hooker. So it's a big one for him. Unfortunately for him, in terms of matchmaking, I don't know that there's anyone above him who he can really fight at this
Mm-hmm.
moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say Hanato Moicano. Um, I know he's below him, but I do feel like Hanato deserves a fight of that caliber, and I'm just not sure who else really makes a ton of sense at this point. And the win streak is only one for Jalin Turner. He did just lose the fight before this. So I think Turner and Moicano is probably where I go.
Yeah, lightweight is a little bottlenecked because A, it is a freaking murderer's row, as we know. But lightweight at the very, very top has a few guys who maybe are towards the end of their careers and they know it and they feel that they've earned the right to only fight in the big fights. I don't say this as a strike against any of them because I love them all dearly. But that being said, for a guy like a Jalin Turner who's trying to break into the top 10 in the upper echelon of lightweight, he now is kind of like knocking on the door and he's like, hey, I'm here. And everyone else is kind of like, big fucking whoop.
Yeah, yeah.
So Moicano's a nice matchup, though. I like that.
And
That
he's
would
been
be
turned
very,
he's been turned
very
back by
exciting.
a couple guys above him already in Gamrot and Hooker. So that makes it even tougher to kind of match him up upward.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if Chandler wasn't fighting Connor, that could be a very exciting step up for him and
Agree totally.
a very interesting physical mismatch between these two guys with the tallest lightweight and maybe the shortest with
Agree.
Chandler.
Chandler, it's funny because Chandler is a great candidate to fight a lot of these guys who are trying to come up, like a Gamrot, like a Fazeev before he got hurt, like a Jalin Turner, even like a Benoit Saint Denis. Like Chandler and any of these guys would be a great fight, but that option is removed because we just have Chandler sitting there waiting for a million years.
Right. Right. To fight an unranked Conor McGregor,
Yeah.
which is so funny. And if Conor comes back and beats Chandler, if Conor comes back and knocks Chandler out, he's just gonna get like a title shot. You know
I
he
mean,
is.
he'll rightfully, if he does come back and knock Chandler out, the lowest you can rank him is like 5. Like he's going to be right there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's move on from the lightweights. Or Lo, you want to match up Bobby Green?
Sure, he's not easy to match up. Um, but I will say Matt Frivola, who also just came off a big
Nice.
loss. He's in a very similar spot. Bobby Green hung on to his ranking in the UFC rankings. I see he's 14. Matt Frivola, you would think if these rankings continued, is probably 16, 17, something like that. So
Yeah, yeah.
they are both, right near each other. They're both coming off a loss. I think that's an exciting fight.
Dude, what about Jalin Turner against Saint Denis, who also is coming off of the win against Favola?
Yeah, I considered saying it. I I'd rather Saint Denis get that main event against Gamrot that he keeps talking about in Europe, which is the only
Sure.
reason I didn't match him with Turner because I'm just hoping for that. But yes, Turner and Saint Denis is a good fight too.